Thank you very much. Well, the University of Brasilia is a big university. It's a comprehensive university. We are in the most fields of knowledge and biology, medicine, social science, language, engineering, computer science. Everything we have is a 50,000 community university, a big university. And these sessions organized at the Faculty of Economics, Administration, Accountancy, and Public Policies Management. And it's one of the biggest faculties in the university. And we're very happy that you could make it come to talk to us today. Mr. Atul Prashar is a multi-talented professional. He holds an MBA in Finance and Media from Fort Cabelli School of Business in New York. He has a bachelor degree in business from the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, US. He has some vast experience in investment, innovation, business development in areas such as entertainment. I know that you did something in Bollywood. I'm very curious to know about that. Technology, media, including experience in Bollywood. He's also a joint professor at Fordham Cabelli School of Business in New York, a board member of Digital Diversity Network, and co-host of Whiskey Hill podcast. And he has where he discusses venture in tech and culture, founder and CEO of Sava 360 Venture, a platform connecting influential leaders with innovative entrepreneurs to share ideas and source ideas. He also a New York ambassador for Nexus Global India. Mr. Atul Prashar, welcome to the University of Brasilia.
I think you're muted. Yeah.
I just saw that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Jose, for the wonderful intro and everyone. And I just saw Gregory Bergida here who connected us. Jaqueline, I think you and I began the initial conversation. I thank you so much for having me. First of all, I have some students in my current course. Two of them are from Brazil. And I mentioned that I'll be doing this. I don't know if they've joined, but they said it's the top university in Brazil, and in South America is even rated incredibly well. So I'm so honored to be among you all today. Thank you so much. And I speak incredibly fast, so do tone me down when needed. Just put a hand up. I have mental notes to kind of tell myself to slow down. But I'm a big fan of everything you're doing. And as I've gotten to know you, thank you so much for having me. We can take this conversation anywhere. My career has been across tech, entertainment as a music producer, singer for quite some time, and then now in finance. And I've been incredibly blessed where I get to pull all those skill sets from my 20-year career into now investing in kind of the next generation and people like yourselves and seeing kind of innovative ideas out there that I feel kind of aligned with my core thesis. Like I try to get involved with projects that are media content heavy, sports, entertainment, and then also have some sort of diversity spin or philanthropic angle of gender equality. And even just investments I've made in the last 3 weeks could be right in line with those. And I'm happy to discuss anywhere: tech, entertainment, finance, wherever you'd like to take this. This time is yours.
That's great. So Jaqueline here, Atul, very nice meeting you in person now. I mean, although online, but now face to face, right? We have been talking for some time now. Thanks so much also for Gregory, as you mentioned, who made this bridge and makes so many bridges for us as well. So thank you so much.
He's great. Yeah, thank you.
He is amazing. Yes. Maybe we can start. Yeah, sorry.
No, please go ahead, Jaqueline. It's because of me that you. I just would like to say that maybe Mr. Atul can make a brief presentation of his career, concentrating on how you face challenges, and I mean, why did you construct a career like that? What was the challenge? Maybe talking a little bit of nationality and challenges on that side, looking us as Brazilians. Wanting to belong to an international network. So how do we construct that possibilities for ourselves? And then later on, we set our questions and develop the conversation.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. So in the beginning, I began my career in tech. I knew I needed to have some sort of foundation in tech. For me personally, I love the space. I did that for a few years, and I'm from the Chicago here in Illinois, Chicago area. Moved to New York. I actually wanted to be a music superstar. I'll be honest. I wanted to sing and write music for that's what I wanted to do, entertainment. So I had saved up money in tech. I'd done that for as a developer of apps in a healthcare setting. I was never going to be Bill Gates or a Mark Zuckerberg. I knew that early in tech. So I said, let me just take my kind of skill set that I had at the time, and let's try this whole music thing out. So I moved to New York for that very reason. And I had 2 relationships here in New York area and 1 in LA. And those are the 2 entertainment capitals at that time. So I moved in the US. And so I moved to New York and gave that a shot. And I was very fortunate. So the international component, we could park that for one. We'll explore that in a moment. And I was very fortunate that I met up with, I hustled, and I met up with some phenomenal leaders, some phenomenal celebrities who were very influential, who then kind of took me under their wing. So I produced music and had written a lot of music for a lot of shows here in the US that are popular here. Some play internationally. I know they play in New Zealand. I don't know about Brazil. Like CSI New York was a hit show here. Desperate Housewives was a hit show here, but they play in syndication. They're all canceled now off of regular TV here. They're not creating new ones, but they play in syndication. In a lot of shows, I did a lot of urban music. So in America, that's kind of considered R&B and hip hop, rap, R&B. That's the kind of music I was doing, producing, and I was singing in that space. So a lot of Afrocentric, African-American type of shows, Girlfriends, Bernie Mac. I started doing a lot of music for that, and a lot of hip hop artists here. And the beauty of it is, so I at one point I was in the industry, knew I could do what I could do musically, but I saw a hiccup in my career where I wasn't great at marketing. I didn't know how to brand myself, and I saw that was an impetus. It was a hurdle for me in that space. So I actually went and I enrolled part-time. And I think I flipped it to full-time eventually at Fordham, which is a great school for marketing. There were 2 schools here locally that were good in media and entertainment. I literally wanted to learn just marketing, make myself better at that. But I fell in love within the first 5-6 months with finance. I'm a numbers nerd by default. And so the tech and finance and I went deep down that space, thinking I would earn my MBA, then take it back to the music industry. So I would be that one of 5 MBAs at the time that would have deep finance expertise, that was working in the music industry. So I'd get to marry my 2 loves. But then I actually went and worked at a hedge fund first. It was 2000, this would have been 2009-ish, 10, and it suspended operations, meaning it crashed and burned during the financial crisis, our hedge fund. But I knew I still wanted to be in that space. So I thought, a few partners and I, 3 of us, we said, let's invest in sports and entertainment and media projects. And that's how we started our venture fund. So venture fund, we pool capital, put our own money in and pool capital from others. And we invest in the next startups that we're deeply connected to in our space. So entertainment, media. So we did a lot of that. And in the meantime, we were endorsing and funding other music opportunities. So then I had music placed here. Now I'm on the back end of it. After that the fund has been together, we've launched another group of investments and other syndicate groups. We invest in a lot of different opportunities. So sports apps. We have relationships with the NFL and the NBA here. NFL will be our American football. The NBA basketball, everyone knows that's a greatly traveled export of ours from the US. So these are the kind of spaces I play in, and entertainment. My whole thing is I want all of these skills to be aggregated. At the end of the day, want to become kind of an ambassador for most. To fast track them, I want people to just have deep financial literacy experience, and develop investing in yourself type of skill sets, meaning that's learning a skill set, finance or non-finance. But then let's bring it back to finance. I'm just a numbers nerd, tech nerd. I easily admit that. I want people to become better investors in public and private markets. That's dear to me. I think it can change lives. So that's why it can really, if I had stayed in tech, I never would have been where I am now. So the culmination of everything, I was hit with hurdles, and you pivot, and you're all much younger than I am. So you're going to hit these hurdles and take them as they come, pivot as needed, stay true to who you are, and you'll be able to knock these things out of the park. Now I'm in a position where I get to invest in the projects that I like. So I'll give you an example. So four projects. One is an Instagram meets TikTok meets, maybe it's not the best OnlyFans. It's kind of a combination of those three apps. And I've invested in it. It's run by an African-American gentleman. And his thing is, I want to support diversity in creator economy. So people, if you post to Instagram, unless you're a Kim Kardashian or Shakira type, you're not getting a lot of the sponsorship. You're not owning your content. You're displaying it there, and Instagram, is getting most of the wealth out of that, serving advertising against your content. And what he's done, fan base, you get to, instead of liking, you get to love a piece of content, and then you get to give them a fraction of a penny, and over time people are making tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. That was near and dear to me. Creators getting paid for their content. So that's one thing. Another one is I've just invested in literally 2 weeks ago, and this is a personal investment. Gender equity has always been near and dear to me. As growing up in a home of all males, and most of my cousins are male, I was very ignorant to a lot of things that were happening globally. And then some movies opened my eyes to some of these things. And now I have a niece. I have 2 boys myself. And this is important because it's a, male, female, to resolve the gender equity, whether it's education, and when I'm doing things in my space back in India, where I'm from originally. Gender equity and education and parity leads to gender equity issues. If you don't resolve them early, leads to socioeconomic issues later on down the road. So let's nip that in the bud. So we're deep in education and funding those kind of opportunities. So back to what I've done with this $1 Million Women concept. There's the founder there, Julia. Her idea is, I want to get 1 million women founders to $1 million in revenue by 2035. And she's deeply committed to this space, and she's already done it with a few thousand women already, and she just launched a group to really scale that. So there's some phenomenal investors involved, and I'm the least accomplished of all the investors that are involved in this group. They're phenomenal. One of them wrote a book with Reid Hoffman, who's the founder of LinkedIn, and so he's done a lot of investments that are just crucial to our kind of thriving forward. These are the kind of things I'm doing, and I'm also investing in film projects and TV projects. And I will slip some music in of my own, so I can be participating in that way as well. But people who, and this will tie it all together. 25 years ago, when I was watching TV as a child here in Chicago area, I was, diversity meant African American and Latino, and that's great. We need that. There aren't too many people that kind of look like me. Yeah, maybe kind of look Latin to some people, but there weren't people that were kind of like me, what I was speaking at home with parents or uncles and aunts. So I wanted to explore that. And there were many other kids from other cultures that didn't have that representation on TV and film. So I'm endorsing a lot of projects like that. And that doesn't mean that it's a sum zero game where you have only people that look like you. It's a combination of everyone that looks like everyone, reflective of society. and we're putting together projects. Now it's going to be, I want to do things that are near and dear to my heart. I love comedy. I love crazy type of humor. And so I'm endorsing a lot of projects in that space and witty, creative avenues there. So that's kind of the culmination of everything I want to do. I want to empower people to become more financially literate and put some crazy content out there that we all enjoy to make all of this more accessible. Does that kind of give a good sense as to what I'm doing here in the world?
Yeah. But I'm curious about, with all this rich professional experience, how did you manage to go to academia and then to have a career in academia? How you manage this transition?
Fantastic question, because I'm trying to make this make sense for everyone, and I know there's sprinkled in a lot of different verticals. So part of when the pandemic hit, so I was actually setting myself up. I said part of my whole, there's the philanthropic side of everything I do, which would be gender equity and sustainability projects, as I just kind of gotten into. And then I was beginning in 2020, January, I had set up my own personal website with a PR group, a public relations group here in the States. And I wanted to get out there and start speaking more. And just, that's how this whole thing began, Jose, and I'm getting to your point. So in 2020, I began lining up keynotes. In March of 2020, here in the States, things began shutting down. As we all know, we've all been through this whole last 2 years, right? So in the meantime, all of these keynotes, I had maybe 5 keynotes lined up at large conferences for the first 3 months of the year. For the second quarter of 2020, that would have been. We converted all those to Zoom like this, because we were all working from home. And then I thought, well, I could do quite a few of these. I don't have to travel. I can do quite a few of these. And I feel you may all feel differently after listening to this. I feel like I have something to offer. Like, let me share my experiences. And this came under that whole vertical of paying it forward, and kind of when you kind of explain your background and maybe teach something about what you're doing, you learn it better as well. So I thought, let me share anything I know. People can challenge me. We can all kind of learn and get better together. So during that whole 2-year span, I must have done 80 Zoom-like conferences or workshops or talks. I really enjoy it. Like this, I really enjoy. So then I happened to speak at Fordham Gabelli School of Business. This would have been late that year, 2020. A few days later, I was speaking with one of the professors who was in attendance. She said, would you like to turn something like this into a course? And I thought, why not? She said, good, go develop it. I said, oh, okay, that's a lot of work. So, and it is a tremendous amount of work. So we developed this venture investing course, and it's investing in the next Tesla, the next Airbnb, the next football app that you use to watch your favorite football team. And those are the kind of conversations we're having in our course. And then I bring a lot of my colleagues in from the venture community who invest in sports, entertainment, media, tech, and they're all kind of giving guest lectures. So that's, to Jose, to answer your question, after doing a lot of these, I felt like, okay, there's some value in what I'm doing here. Let me do more of it. So I thought, we began offering this class at Fordham Gabelli, and a lot of other groups are asking me to maybe give different spins of it. It's a semester long for MBA level right now. We could do 4-week sessions. We could do 6-week sessions. We could flip this into workshops. So I'm embracing all of those and exploring all of those as well. So Jose, that's how I kind of ended up on being in the academia arm. I'm still investing full time. I do 1 class right now. Possibly we could open it to more later, but right now 1 is quite busy because students have some wonderful questions and it keeps me busy.
That's very right. Atul, let me start by asking something that you have just mentioned. You just gave us some very interesting insights about novelties coming into the market. You just said, what are the new Airbnbs? What are the new possibilities that you watch your favorite game on your iPhone? How do you see changes happening in those environments? Do you believe metaverse is going to help that flourish everywhere? Yeah, share your thoughts with us on that. I'm very curious on that.
So yes, I don't know if a lot of people are interested in that space. So I try to remain young and be on top of things like some of the younger folks in our group. Yes, I do believe there is an angle for the metaverse. Are we there yet? Probably not. So this Web 2.0 was more, so Web 1 was more information driven, just giving it, we Google something, we get information. When Web 1, Google wasn't even around actually. Web 2 became more of an e-commerce play, right? Platforms and social media information that we could create and do. Web 3, where you're going with this metaverse, Web 3 will be more of us all creating content as well as large brands creating content, but we as an individual become a brand and get to monetize our content. So the metaverse is perfectly primed for that space. And Jaqueline, just do let me know if I'm speaking fast. So I know I have a problem with that. I keep going, I get excited. So slow me down whenever you need. So, and Gregory knows this for years of dealing with me. So the metaverse, so crypto, it's built on blockchain, right? So the metaverse has literally been around for 20 years, technically in video games, right? You could put avatars on different, different things that you're playing. You could, in video games, really, you could, put a different creative, I want to put these types of shirts on this thing. It's expanded. Why has it exploded and become incredibly popular in the last year or two? Blockchain. Blockchain is now allowing us to have smart contracts where then we can help monetize ourselves. And it's just making the adoption of it much more drastically enhanced, quicker, smarter, more efficient. And the adaptability is just exploding. Now you're getting Nikes of the world who are prestigious in real life, IRL, who are now trying to come into this space. They will. There's a place for Balenciaga and Tesla, Nike, all of these amazing brands, but you also want something that's native to this space. And I always bring up these brands like Airbnb, Tesla, Glossier would be brands that are particularly, they came from from your generation, like, some of your students' generation here, where Glossier may even be kind of an older brand for some of your folks. You want something that's crypto native as a new brand to come from this space, right? So the metaverse will exist. As you all know, they're digital coordinates in the internet webs, in the interwebs, and you will have different components that you can go visit. We can enter. I would love for, after we did this, like 3-4 years from now, maybe even sooner, we all do this in Jaqueline, Jose, Siegrid, you say, hey, all students, whoever wants to meet up at this bar in Brazil in the metaverse, we can meet up at a local salon bar, and we can have drinks together virtually, and then we can carry the conversation in a much more casual manner. Then what can you do there? We're all meeting virtually like this. You can sell advertising there. You can have a premier liquor brand come on and sponsor our event and have different types of opportunities like that. And then, Jaqueline, halfway through, you could say, I love my white shirt, my cream colored shirt. I want to wear a Nike emblem. And they've paid me to wear this. 20 minutes into this conversation, you can change that with a click of a thing. So there's going to be advertising that's going to hit here. There are more functional items as well. Can we do this work? It's not just about playing, it's also, there's work and creative that you can do there. Think about it. I can't get to Brazil right now. I would love to be there with you, because Brazil, I've been near the western part. I've been to Peru. Brazil is on my bucket list, and it's beautiful. I know that. Many friends have visited. But let's say I can't get there today after this, but let's say I could visit in the metaverse of some sort, right? That'd be great. I mentioned to Siegrid that my older uncles were huge Pele fans, right? So that got me into football early, and I played my entire kind of up until young adulthood. So that got me into it. I've gravitated towards watching more American football and basketball, but I'm a huge fan of global football still. And that, because of that, I would have loved to gone in the metaverse. You'll have, let me know if I'm speaking, because I know I get excited. Pele playing next to Armando Maradona, next to
Atul, maybe, I don't know if everybody's understanding, but Pelé, he's talking about Pelé being an inspiration.
I'm sorry.
Not everyone has captured it. I know they have different levels of English speaking, so yeah, just wanted to translate that.
And it starts with me. I should pronounce it properly. Pelé. Yeah, sorry. So begins
now that's for us. Didn't want to correct you, but in English, Pelé probably, but for us, Pelé.
Yeah, Pelé. Thank you for that clarification. So imagine in the metaverse, let's say you have your favorite team. I'm looking at a company right now, and they're beyond where I thought this would be in the next even 3 months, let alone today, or even a year. You have you have these global teams that have been around for decades, right? In the metaverse, you can't, Pele is in his 80s. He's not going to be playing at the level he was when he was in his 20s, right? Let's just put it that way. You can take the premier version of him, and then in video games, you can do that right now. You can take the old prime versions of these members and play a game with them as if their stats were that. But you're playing as of those stats. There's a game I'm looking at right now that we can invest in. They're trying to put this in fintech, blockchain, metaverse, where there are fantasy sports. I don't know if everyone is familiar with that. Fantasy sports are basically your favorite players, whatever their stats are from the game that they just played in today, let's say, they're loaded there. And if they took 4 strikes on the goal, that would be, they would get points for that. And then you can bet on all of this stuff. In football, in American football, if they score a touchdown or kick a goal. In basketball, NBA, it would be how many baskets does LeBron James hit or miss, or whoever. You can play on all of these things. You can take versions of all of these folks, and somebody's saying Ready Player One. That is the perfect analogy to this. That's exactly what the Ready Player One is this, and we are going to be doing so much more than Ready Player One when this is all kind of said and done. So you can take this game allows us to take current statistics of the games that were just played today. We load those against avatars that are in a video game, and they play using those statistics and how it kind of unfolds on the screen. So there's members from 32 different American football teams, and you load those, but you have a player from each team. Let's say you have 11 players and they're from different teams. However they perform that day, you're loading their statistics into the game automatically. Just an algorithm pulls it in, and then they play against a defense from another team, and it's phenomenal. So the metaverse, and you can be sitting in the stands in the metaverse space, and there's just so many opportunities in the metaverse, right? So then, and let's talk about from an education component. We could be doing these kind of things in a more immersive manner, right? Any of you three, I've mentioned professors, and you could be at a board teaching us these kind of things, and then I can actually reach out and touch the screen and say, I'm pointing at this directly, and I help change the screen if you allow, and I help you say, hey, Atul, come up to the board and help me solve this problem. We can do this in the metaverse. And then there's branding opportunities and other things. And I think there's a great opportunity if anyone wants to go into have education as a sliver, or anything you want to do, or anything you want to do will be replicated in the metaverse. What you will want is brands that are reflective of your generation, meaning you want crypto native, because this is all coming on blockchain and crypto space. You want those types of brands. Do you really want Balenciaga or Louis Vuitton being the dominating forces in this space where they are centuries old brands, some of them, or Tommy Hilfiger? You want brands that are native to this space who really understand and get what you're all interested in at this moment. That's a long-winded answer to your question.
Well, that was amazing to hear. Okay. Yeah, we are maybe just giving a chance to our students here. They have set a question on the chat, so I'm going to read that through. Mr. Atul, have you ever seen the movie Ready Player One? Do you think something like the metaverse can achieve a level of complexity to where a company can achieve sort of control over people's lives, and where the life and interaction online will be the same or even more important than the real life? And if it was a reality, would you invest in it? So a challenging question for you, I would say.
So yes, the Ready Player One. No, that's a phenomenal, wonderful question. It's perfectly teed up. And I should have mentioned Ready Player One at the very beginning of the whole metaverse conversation. I went to the video game route. Ready Player One is exactly what they're trying to create, and it will actually be even better. Now, you mentioned there are pros and cons to all of this, right? If we aggregate in an education setting, or let's say we like Balenciaga or Louis Vuitton or Nike or Adidas, we can go and sit in virtual rooms and partake in content that's coming from those brands. On the flip side, there are people who can do bad things in the metaverse as well. They can aggregate in communities which are unregulated, right? This is the whole concept of being in the blockchain, is there's more control. Now, what you're seeing is brands are trying to on-ramp us into Web3, the metaverse, by creating those kind of platforms. Facebook, Meta is trying to go down that route. They are just going to be one of hundreds of brands that are in this space. Because think, we're fit in the physical world, we're limited to what's actually in front of us, right? In the metaverse, unlimited. There's so many opportunities. That's good and bad. That can be scary, right? So governments want, I'm not trying to get this into political conversation at all, but governments want some sense of control over their populations, because then there's some law and order, not chaos every morning. Like, you don't want that. In the metaverse, there's potential for that, right? Because if it's going to be truly what you want it to be, it's unregulated. But then not everything is ice cream with a cherry on top in that space as well. So you want to make sure that we all, because there are good actors and bad actors, right, in any society. So you want to make sure that there are ways to kind of control that. But so yes, Ready Player One is kind of what we're striving for, where you at some point you don't want to wear goggles and have to walk around your life, and then boom, that's how you enter the metaverse. What Facebook and Meta through the Oculus goggles, VR headsets, are trying to accomplish. That's great. At some point, might be 20, 25 years from now, and if you heard me speak before, I say this often, we'll get out of our beds in the morning and we'll step right into a combination hybrid of the metaverse and real life. It'll probably be scary. It'll take us some time. Think of your head in some vehicles I've seen in Europe and in the States, and probably in South America, you have heads up display where instead of looking at the speedometer in front of you, telling you how fast you're going, it'll display it on your window in a lighting cue. You're going to see things similar to that, maybe by wearing something on your wrist. So you don't have to wear something on your body. Think Meta, Facebook has always had to access us through a physical device, right? Or through somebody else's platform. Facebook needs iPhone or Google devices or some other device to get access to our information. Apple has their phone. They also have Apple Watch, which is directly on our body, which then, there's health information that can be transmitted in all of this. Facebook has never had that. Oculus is their first entrance into that space, where they're physically connected to your body versus just a platform where you can post and like. And you're going to get companies are now going to be endorsing products that should be physically attached to us somehow, like the Fitbit, the Apple Watch. It'll become more intrusive. There might be how Elon Musk wants to put a chip in our brain. There are things that will be going down this road. So there will be everything that you see in real life, whether it's e-commerce, shopping, visiting a show, and Gregory's involved with a phenomenal company where you can actually partake in social events separately, but you can see a live event, but you're together in a room, and then you can you visit in the room. You can have your own experience at a live concert, but you're in a digital experience online, still tethered to your laptop or phone, and you can then then you can share what you're experiencing there. Now, let's say we all went to a concert together, a live concert, someone was performing. We're not together, but we could act like we are by getting onto certain apps and then saying, oh, we could be having our drinks and eating whatever food and high-fiving each other at a live sporting event virtually, or through our phone, and sharing that experience of a live event, even though we're thousands of miles apart. So all of these things are coming, and every company is trying to. Now, what you're seeing is we're really at a web 2.2, 2.3, where Nike is creating avatars where you buy a pair of shoes in real life, you get an NFT, and then those can be, you can kind of commoditize those and sell those and, trade them up. This is really Web 2. Web 3 is completely unregulated and out of this world. We can imagine it, Ready Player One, we're not there yet. So what you're seeing so far is Web 2, maybe up to Web 2.5. You want it to be complete us and control of our brand, our personality, online, our presence. So you can see what I look like, right? I have darker skin, I have black hair. I could create an avatar where I have blonde hair in the metaverse. On Tuesdays, on Wednesdays, I could be a 6'1" blonde-haired woman. On Tuesdays, on Wednesday, I could be completely different color and race. Right? That's what you can create online. So these are things that you can do, and then you look into other possibilities. You can brand something, and a brand can sell something different to my Tuesday persona versus my Wednesday persona. right? So just look at all of those kind of possibilities. That's how we look at it from our venture community. If we're investing in the future, man, just give you a quote. This is what I kind of live by and what we look at the venture community. And don't imagine if it could happen. In our venture community, we actually imagine if it happened, would we ever go back, right? So Uber, Lyft, these are all great examples. Now that Uber exists, even though the business model makes, I don't know how they'll ever get to money, that they actually revenue sustainability versus being, but now we'll never go back to just taxis, it seems like, right? Airbnb is in the world now. We'll never go back to just booking in a hotel. Airbnb is an option. So think along those ways. If we ever happens, will we ever go back to the other way of doing things? And that's how we look at things in the venture community. Again, a long-winded answer to your question. I'm sorry.
No, and for
I
sure.
have a cultural answer for you. You have Indian backgrounds. You mentioned several times, it's very much connected with family. Was India big for you to develop your career, to help you to think about which paths to take in terms of career, both in the digital world, in the cultural industry? What you can tell us about that?
Yes, great question. So yes, it was. It has deeply impacted my career choices. A, the career choices I've made, and B, early on, career choices that were made for me. So I was pushed from my parents to get into some sort of tech or medical field early on, right? So they were always giving me tech problems or finance problems to work on, math. If I was mowing the lawn as a 12-year-old, my father would come by and give me 4 math problems that were very complex to solve. He'd come back 5 minutes later. As I was mowing the lawn, I had to solve them in my head. So that, so that was then driving me towards critical thinking. That's what he was working on with me. I had no idea at the time. So critical thinking, math, being able to quickly decipher how numbers work and kind of navigate my life through that. It gave me a liking towards the space. So I went into tech immediately after school, university, undergrad. And then I fell in love, as I mentioned. Music was always near and dear to me. Music is very similar to it's a numbers game when you're putting music together. My family was deeply into music. So when I actually was in the music industry, as I mentioned, I worked in the urban space, which is R&B, hip hop. So you're thinking from like Drake type of artists to what's a good person to mention who hasn't done anything bad as a celebrity? Drake to like a Beyonce. They're safe. Let's go there. Drake, Beyonce, Shakira, that type of music. And I would put a lot of this is based on Western music. I would actually incorporate, because I play some Eastern instruments from India. So I started incorporating that into my singing style. Had my whole family sings or plays something. So I incorporated that into it. So the record labels that I was working with, they always wanted, hey, you're Indian, bring some of the Indian flavor into our music. So I would do it. And then now that has inspired me. Like I love still urban music. I love rock and roll, but urban is kind of dominant in my playlist. I love every style of music, but I incorporate that into projects that I'm involved with. The film projects that I'm involved with right now, I will incorporate heavy urban beats, but there will be some South Asian tinge to it, probably. And that just means maybe tablas, which are like congos in our world. So yes, it does play a huge part. And it's just the drive to kind of succeed. My parents were immigrants to America. I was born and raised in the Chicago area, live in the New York area, New Jersey area. Now, they struggled more than I ever had to, right? So I owe it to their generation to kind of keep that going. What can I do to forward progress for my sons, my cousins, the people coming after me? So that's that work. Hey, just kind of work with a chip on your shoulder. It has always been there, because they didn't have a lot of doors open for them. They had to open their own doors. So yes, it has heavily influenced what my career choices.
Can we maybe explore that Indian background, Atul, and get you to share with us a little bit more about Bollywood? So
Yeah.
How has your connection to the industry been, the film industry from India? And where do you see it going towards, given the great connection between entertainment and technology in India booming?
Great question. So Bollywood is a from a volume perspective, is the largest film producing capital of the world, right? They produce, I'm not going to mention about quality. The quality is getting better. So from a quality standpoint, now it's on par because they're getting Western. There's a lot of actually people like us investing in projects over there, or very wealthy individuals in India. They're having a lot of sponsorship dollars so they can actually create Mission Impossible, Avengers quality type of content. Before that wasn't there. They had the same story. There was a love story, and then it took them 3 hours to tell them how that resolved, right? Now they've actually, ironically, Bollywood movies are getting shorter, to around an hour and a half to 2 hours. American movies, especially these superhero movies, are becoming longer, like the 3 hours, and Batman, which just came out. That's the irony there. But now there's better storytelling in Bollywood. It's a huge industry. And now there's the content, and because there are South Asians that live everywhere in the world, so and there are a lot, so it's adopted in many Asian countries outside of India. A lot of Europe has a lot of folks, Canada, America, obviously, Mexico City has a huge presence of Indians. So people are, and then non-South Asians really admire this content. So I worked with the equivalent of, I don't know the Brazilian counterpart, I should have had this. So if you know Martin Scorsese is a huge film director here. Who else would be? Francis Ford Coppola from back then, he did the Godfather movies. I worked with the equivalent of them. So the Chopra family, Chopra, I worked with that equivalent in India. That was by default, by accident. I was doing music, American music here. I just happened to be at some film festival where we were releasing the music that I had done for some film. And I met one of the sons of the Abhay Chopra family. And we just, over drinks, we were having a conversation about music that we'd like to do. He had put out a phenomenal movie with some other superstars that, and I was the one that did the music for it. And it just, that opened that space for me to do music in Bollywood, which is great. So I love it. Now you're seeing people that look like there's more people that look like me here, but you want every face. You want white, black, brown. You want every person on stage, not just one or two, everyone. Making things more inclusive means not excluding others. You just keep adding to the pot. There are so many, maybe too many platforms for us to watch content on now. So there's enough content need. So I want to continue exploring the space, but the projects I'm getting aren't going to be deeply suited in just Indian. Actually, the project I'm funding now, it is about 2 South Asian leads. One's pretty famous here in America, but it's an American story. He just happens to be South Asian. I'll put some music into it, which will probably have urban beats of America, like Drake-like beats, but maybe a little simple sampling of Indian spice in it, right? And we'll have little jokes that'll be relevant to Indian folks. So there's a huge bridge. Just to give an unnecessary use of historical fact. Before, when they had silent films in India, it used to be Jewish women that used to play because they wanted fairer skin. They wanted lighter skinned ladies playing the lead roles in India. It's a horrible historical fact, but in India. So they're Jewish women. And then as soon as it converted from silent film to voice driven film, the Jewish women could not speak the Indian language. That's when they had to start putting Indian women in Indian roles, in India even, right? So these are just interesting things. And that happens around the world. Like, there are just unique stories in different markets, and which creates different opportunities for people.
Okay, very interesting, and makes us think a lot about diversity and diverse experiences. Mr. Atul, I have here 2 students' questions. Let me just ask them. Luis Felipe and Giovanni, do you want to set yourself the questions? I don't know, maybe they're not having some technical aspect, but well, we have one question from Luis Felipe, which is, have you ever seen any metaverse problem that didn't exist before? And the second one from Giovanni is, if you believe that metaverse can have a potential to change the concept of education that we currently have in most of the world, with in-person classes to something more fluid with a different model. Okay, Giovanni just explained his mic is not working that well. So this is his question, maybe taking the chance that you are also a professor and you have a sight into the educational aspect. So if you just want to answer both or connect for as yours.
I'll take the first one. Let's take the first
Okay.
one. So let's, and from the metaverse, I haven't seen a direct problem in metaverse. I have seen a problem in the NFT space, which is going to be an on-ramp to the metaverse. So that in the NFT space, you're seeing, this is, so I'm going to call, my friend was an early investor in Coinbase. I was not. I wish I was. I had been, because then, you know, it would have been nice. I could have flown there on my private jet, but I'm not. I'm here. But a problem on Coinbase they found, and OpenSea, which are two platforms here. They're global platforms, but they're very popular here as far as exchanging NFTs, especially OpenSea. What they found is there was an NFT owned by one person. He and his friends were just selling it back and forth to each other with the same pool of money. He would sell it. Let's say, I'm making up numbers here. Let's say it cost him $1,000 US. He sold it to his friends for 2,000 US. And then he sold it back to this gentleman, person A, for 10,000. So then the community looked at this and said, wow, that NFT piece is gaining in popularity. If it's going from 1 to 2 to 10,000, it must be popular. I want to buy it. So someone came in and paid, let's say, the equivalent of 20, 25,000, double, tripled it. This case was in the millions, actually. He bought this expensive piece, and then he realized it was built on people fraudulently selling it back and forth, creating fake demand, and he bought it. So those kind of things exist, and that's happening. There's no way. They're trying to figure out how to regulate that. These things get found out after the fact, but if it is truly on crypto, you should be able to see it because it's timestamped, transparent. You should be able to see it, but all these things are happening so quickly. So that is one problem. That's one problem. That's not directly in the metaverse, but NFTs are, you know, metaverse is going to be very NFT driven. So just keep an eye out for that kind of thing. The second question was quite long. So it was about something about education, right?
Is if you think it's going, what's the potential to change education, and if education as we have now, which is presential and having a professor or a teacher in class, if this is going to change forever.
I think that's a great question, whoever asked that. I think this is going to complement education. I think you're still going to have some physical. Now, why should we limit ourselves to, you're in Brazil. This is a top-notch university. All my Brazilian students are telling me that. My colleagues are saying this is a top-notch university in Brazil. I can't physically be in Brazil for 2 years, but what if I could take a course from either of you, you know, through this kind of space, in this kind of setting? This is basically, there's two-way communication here, but what if you could be in more of an immersive space where we could actually, it's like I'm physically there. I could walk up in the metaverse and answer a question on the board, or present to the class in a meaningful manner where they could see some sort of avatar of me. And these will be more lifelike as we kind of get better quality involved as far as from a graphic perspective. I think it's going to be a hybrid. There's no sense, and I always, you know, this is a top university. Why can't the world benefit from the education that you all are putting out into the world? Why does it have to be limited geographically to where you are, right? And then we can open it up. Okay, Zoom allows someone from Europe, someone from America, or how I'm joining you today, to partake, but let's make it really immersive. It's still only communication. I'm seeing some wonderful faces here, but we're not getting out there and working together collaboratively. That's what the metaverse will allow for, as we perfect that. So if you have some sort of idea in the education space, do explore it. There is way too much money going into this space right now. Some of it will be wasteful. 90% of the projects in this space will probably not make it. They won't be sustainable models, right? But 5 to 10% will change the world. Google was one of many companies that tried to do this search engine space, and now look where they are, right? So Apple, all of these were funded by venture capital early on, and look, they've changed the entire world, right? So there are opportunities here. Education is going to be huge here. That's one of the beauties of the metaverse. We're talking about brands and Nikes. I think how does that move the needle societally and culturally? Education will move the needle for us. If you're all top professors, why can't someone from East or West part of the world partake in your class in a very immersive manner. We need to get there. Hope that answers the question. Uh-oh, Gregory's answering a question. He's the scary one. I have to watch out for him. Sorry. I love Helena and Ricky, I think, if that's the way to pronounce your name. Thank you for showing your faces. I appreciate it. Alongside, thank you.
Okay, Jaqueline, is that okay if I set a question myself, or you wanna? Okay.
Please go ahead, Siegrid. We just have a few questions in the chat as well, right? But
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, I just
In 5
wanted.
minutes.
Okay. Oh, so maybe we should read each one and then he makes a mix in the answering. Okay, I will just set my question in terms of career, which is the project that this session here participates. It's not only you who said it, but we are seeing guest speakers always mentioning on how you need to build a career to advertise yourself, like to as we do on Facebook, but like on more professional networks like LinkedIn, and you kind of need to be, so we see a change from like a company looking for someone and mentioning what is the profile he needs to something which is you just speak to the companies what is your profile and what different skills and capabilities you have, or how you can add value to the companies. So my question is if you see a potential on going through this, what I may call avatar experience, like participating in virtual experiences. For example, as you mentioned, like I can be one day of the week a person from another ethnicity and have an experience, like a social experiencing, trying that other being, that other personality. And if this can at some point enhance your professional skills in terms that you try possibilities to develop skills that they wouldn't be available for you in person life, or they would not be available for you at all. For example, if I want to have an indigenous experience and this is not my ethnicity, I would never be able to do that in person. And how this, do you think this is going to be something valued for the development of a professional profile in the future?
Yeah, so aggregate as much as you can. So let's very high level. Pursue all the dreams that you want, because if you're not pursuing your dreams with an adequate skill set, if you're not building your dream, someone will hire you to build their dream, right? I want to start there. And then, so we're very, okay, I'm gonna go with this at a different route. We're becoming a tech-driven world, right? So let's say you're going into marketing. Instead of doing marketing I'm answering this in a different manner, sorry, Siegrid. So let's say don't do marketing at a regular marketing, especially if you're young. If you can go to a marketing world, a marketing first company and just do marketing, why not take marketing and work at a tech-driven world, at Instagram or a Twitter or something, or even a smaller company, because you'll be wearing many hats, which will make you versatile, and you'll aggregate these skill sets, because tech is the future, right? The world is driven by, sorry, I'm doing this again, capital providers, innovators, and tech. So it's been the other two before. Tech is now taking the forefront. And so you want to be tech savvy. That doesn't mean you have to be a computer programmer developer. I tried it, wasn't great at it, didn't like it. But I'm glad I have that skill set, because it helps me navigate a lot of what I'm doing now at a high level. So have some exposure to that in the tech world, because that'll be coming. It's going to be everything you do. You order coffee, there's going to be some tech component to it at some point, right? You're already doing a lot of it through your app potentially. Whatever it is, there's going to be some components. So aggregate as much as you can. And I would, if I had to start my career now, I would go work at no matter what, if I was an accountant, marketing person, advertising, I would try to go to a tech first company, go to an Instagram, or the next Facebook or the next Netflix, because you'll be absorbing, because they're very forward thinking companies. You'll be absorbing so many skill sets that you would, and I'll knock on this American company, at an IBM, let's say. IBM's a behemoth. They're trying to get into cloud space. They're catching up and they will do well there, but that's not innovative. per se, versus some of these other younger companies that are kind of fresh and hungry. It was a long question. What was the other part of the question? Sorry.
No, I think that's it. If we
Okay.
need to advertise ourselves, like much more than looking for, like, because we're seeing this shift. So how much energy you think we need to put on this, like having a network and advertising our own particularities?
So, and then self-advertise, that's where I picked up on my tangent over there. So just taking what you just said, advertising ourselves. If I was a recruiter and I saw, oh, this person did marketing or tech at IBM or some other company, or she or he has done it at, for some football team that's very tech savvy, or Twitter or Instagram or TikTok, that is going to be a positive flag for me, saying, oh, I'd rather hire her or him who came from this company because they're exposed to what's coming, versus the person who did the same role at a behemoth company where they're just trying to catch up to what these folks are doing. They have their legacy revenue streams, but these folks are coming at a different angle. So advertising yourself, you can self-do that by going in these roles that are in progressive companies that are admired by HR recruiters, right? So that way you do that. And then always make sure your brand presence stays with you forever. I'm a horrible marketer. I'm learning how to get better. And I'm putting more of my content out there, but I'm blunt. I say a lot of what I feel often. That's good or bad. That's for people to decide, but I'm not going to say everything, right? And put that online, because these things stay forever. So if you're ever posting to Instagram, TikTok, this is all part of your brand, right? Your personal, professional brand. If you're witty, put it out there, but don't be off-putting. And that's, in a current climate in certain countries, it's very difficult to navigate that, right? Here in America, we've become too heavy in this cancel culture, in my opinion, right? So everything you do and you put online remains there for 15, 10, 12, 20, 15 years, 20 years, whatever it is. Make sure you're putting out quality that is reflective of you. You want to reflect all of you, but not if it's off-putting, because there's something I was comfortable in my 20s, then my 30s, 40s, I wouldn't want that out there. I actually took a lot of my music content away when I jumped into the hedge fund space, because that audience wouldn't have taken likely to, the music stuff, because we were having fun in the music industry. So I've scraped a lot of that. I actually had algorithms go and scrape anything that mentioned my name at that time. Now it's different. Now I'm at a place where I've arrived and I feel comfortable where I am. I might put some of it back, but it took me a while to get here. So do just be cognizant of everything you're putting online will be there 10 years from now. When you have kids, let's say, or you're in a situation, or you're in an executive position and they're thinking, well, you said this 15 years ago, 10 years ago. How do you feel it? Everything is reflective and accumulative. So it's always going to be out there. Just be careful. That's all. It's all a branding experiment. Sorry. I know I do long, fast. Sorry.
Okay, would we have few more minutes just to read through the last questions? I don't know, Mr. Atul, is that okay for you? We are a little bit on time now.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, because we have one Greg's. Oh, Greg, would you like to set your question? That's Greg. A big one.
It's a great question, by the way.
Sure.
Hey,
everyone,
there's Mr. Handsome Face. There he is.
Atul, I just got to say, earlier when you commented that 25 years ago, when you were a kid, keep in mind 25 years ago, you had a driver's license. So kid is subjective in this context. But my real question is about kind of the access to capital, as you talked about, as people are innovating, as people are starting companies. Right now we hear some pretty grim numbers about, 3% of VC funding goes to female founders. People of color are still at under 1%. So for anyone who, might be in this room who's saying, listen, I don't come from a fancy background. I don't have a super rich family. I don't have these deep connections. It's really easy to get discouraged saying, I might have a great idea, but no one's ever going to hear it. My voice isn't going to be heard. When you look at a company like Saba 360 and others, how do people get onto your radar? How do they find you? How do they speak to you? And how do they get a chance to present I mean, we're all missing out on so many incredible ideas just because we never get to hear about them.
Sure.
How do people find the, either you directly or the you of Brazil?
Excellent question, which is ironic because it's coming from Gregory, but I'm kidding. He's brilliant. He's brilliant. No, okay. Social media platforms. Twitter is phenomenal for our space. Tech and finance conversations are phenomenal on Twitter. I like Twitter more than Instagram, and I know I'm maybe, as Greg alluded to, I'm in my 90s now, apparently. So I love Twitter for that reason. Instagram, people post to, it's great, but like Instagram is more of a personal, endeavor. I don't, but Twitter is a great space, and you can then have great responses to questions that are posed or great comments around things. Some people just get on and try to negate what someone's saying because they feel like that makes them feel smarter or in an authoritative space. No, be participant in conversations. There are conversations happening on Twitter all the time where you can literally meet globally, right? So when the pandemic happened in the venture world, we only used to work within an hour flight of where we lived. We used to work with people. I would invest in companies within an hour of here, right? Of Miser. Now it's become completely global. And so the competition has gone up as well, right? So there's a flood of dollars. Right now, capital is tightening in a lot of places because capital is becoming more expensive. Let's just put it that way. So, but a lot of venture funds have captured money in the last 2 years. They capture, let's say they got it from investors. They have 4 or 5 years to deploy that. So there's still capital in the venture world that we're trying to put out behind great projects. Respond to us on Twitter. Get involved with conversations that are there. Follow who you think is the leader in your space and start conversing with them. They'll reach out, they'll respond. I've met so many founders through there. I've invested in 2 companies. I've never met the founder, and I won't in the next 3 months, even 6 months potentially. But I liked what they were, because guess what? It's a branding exercise. I saw that they were connected to people that I trusted. And then I thought, okay, and then I had conversation with them and he said, this makes sense. Let's go for it. So there are opportunities like that. As it becomes truly global, knowing that, caveat to that, it's a little bit more competitive, but if you're good, just be out there. We'll find you. Just continue getting in those conversations. LinkedIn, Twitter are phenomenal places to raise capital right now, to be honest with you, globally.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, it was a very interesting presentation, very advanced for us, to be honest. I'm not so sure if I'm already in the metaverse like you, but I can see the future in your presentation and many opportunities in terms of career for our students. It's good to see that you are willing to share some of very advanced experience with us. Would you like to say anything else to finish your presentation?
I will say, so metaverse dominated a portion of our conversation. There are enough opportunities in real life. You don't have to just focus on the metaverse. So do pursue what you're looking for, knowing that metaverse will be a complementary component to it. So let's just park that there. This is a blessing. I appreciate it. Gregory had gotten me involved with some students of Qatar, and I've spoken in South Asia. I love these global experiences. I wish there was more of an interaction, with the students, so I can directly see you. Do connect. Somebody just posted. Do connect with me on LinkedIn, and I will definitely respond if you have questions there. I'm happy to. Twitter, I'm involved on @Salva360com. I could post all this stuff later, and then Instagram, you can connect. I'm becoming more active on Instagram again. I'm getting better, but thank you so much for this. This is a blessing and honor. I would love for you to reach out to me and we can have a conversation on LinkedIn and all that. However I may help you, do let me know.
Okay, that was fantastic. In the name of the University of Brasilia, I must say thank you to you, and also to Greg to help to find you. Thank you very much for coming. Fantastic presentation. I see that I need to do far more in the metaverse in the coming years, to be honest. So if I want to have a dialogue with my students. Fantastic presentation. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Atul, so much for your time and incredible insights. So I will stop the recording right now.